Hey, what is going on? I hope everybody has had an amazing week. I am so excited. This is my first time ever going live with my podcast. Tony Taylor inspires the podcast. I'm excited. I'm excited. I always kind of looked at going live on this thing as kind of nerve wracking a little bit because it's, I don't know, like maybe like under rehearsed, but I'm doing the first one with a trained pro, and her name is Sejal Thakkar. I am so excited to introduce you to my audience. You and I, we met. How long ago was it that we met?
Not too long ago, just a few months, 2-3 months, maybe even 2 months.
Oh, maybe even a month.
Maybe even a month.
Yeah. And with this this podcast, it's not like an interview. It's not like, it's just a conversation with good friends. You and I think as soon as we met, we were good friends initially, and that's why I wanted to have you on here, just so that everybody can know. I don't do this show as, you know, hey, I'm going to do it every Friday at this time. It would be amazing if I could do that. But what I do is I see people on the internet. I can see people walking down the street. I can see my neighbors, no matter what. I think I might even get my mom in here, but the people that I am inspired by, right? And that's the name of this show. Tony Taylor Inspires the Podcast. And I'm bringing on people that I'm inspired by. Probably a few months into the pandemic, what I would do is I would just reach out to certain influencers online and just ask them questions. And I noticed that they were dropping some bombs on me. And I'm just like, man, the whole world needs to hear this. The whole world needs to hear this information that I'm getting. And that's why I'm bringing my good friend Sejal on. Sejal is what is your title? Because I think it's really cool. I'm not going to do it any justice.
Well, I have two of them. One is Chief Civility Officer, and the second one is Legal Training Ninja.
Legal Training Ninja. I love that. I love. Well, why don't you break those down for me? I love the ninja part.
Yeah. So Legal Training Ninja comes from legal is because I'm an attorney. I'm a licensed attorney in California. Training is because that's what my passion is. I am now I'm not litigating cases anymore. I'm just focused in on providing training to organizations. And then the ninja comes from just my lived experiences, what I went through growing up in my childhood, and how I just refuse, just like you, Tony, because I've done my research on you as well, to let the outer world impact my inner ninja. So that's where that ninja comes from.
I love that. So it's good to know that I'm not the only person that'll see somebody that I'm interested in, and I'll just kind of stalk their page just to kind of see what they're about. I'm not the only one. That's amazing. One thing that I love about you and your platform is you don't take any crap. You don't take any crap. And I saw a couple of your posts, and I was just like, oh man, this is some really good stuff. What made you get into the profession that you're in? Because obviously that's part of the not taking no crap by you being a lawyer. What made you get into that profession?
Yeah, I know. I wish I had some really cool story behind that. But really, my dad knew when I was around 8 or 9 when he said I was going to be a lawyer. He would always joke around about that because I was one of those annoying girls that asked way too many questions. I was always asking why about like everything. And so I know most kids do because I have an 8-year-old. And so, but mine was like on a whole nother level. Like things didn't make sense to me. So I'd always want to know, and I want clarification on a lot of things. So he was like, you're going to be a lawyer. And so that was kind of my path. I majored in accounting in undergrad, and I right away went straight to law school because I knew that was the plan. And it wasn't until just about 3 years ago 8 years ago when I had my son, but 3 years ago when I really just said, you know what, I'm going to just follow my passion and just go for it.
Wow. I love that you said follow your passion. So before you went to law school, what were you doing before that?
Yeah. So,
I'm all up in your business. Huh?
well, I kind of signed up for that, so it's okay. So before law school, it was, look, my parents moved from India to Chicago in 74. So being immigrants, they went to work right away. Education was like really the thing we had. We had to just focus on school. So I was just studying. I mean, after I graduated from college, I went straight to law school. So I grew up in a suburb called Elmwood Park, which is predominantly Italian. I went to undergrad in downtown Chicago at University of Illinois at Chicago, and then I went to law school all the way in DeKalb, Illinois. I don't know if you know where that is.
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I'm from the Midwest. I'm actually not too far from where it's far, but not too close. But I'm actually from Gary, Indiana.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now that's really cool. What I was thinking when I was kind of going through your profile and on the not taking on the theme. I don't know why that keeps sticking in my head. Not taking any crap. As far as your practice and what you do, am I right in saying that you're a civil rights attorney?
Well, I've been an employment law attorney my whole career. So I focused in on cases that dealt with harassment and discrimination, but I was working in the employment context. So I've always worked in the workplace. So like I said, from 2003 till about 8 years ago, I was a defense attorney. So I was representing supervisors in court, again, focusing on harassment, discrimination. So, that's what I did. And then after I had my son, I was like, okay, I want to be at home with him. So that's what I left working for law firms, started working for myself at home. I did that for about 3.5 years. And then when he got older, I was like, okay, you know what? Now I need a steady paycheck. So let me go back to work full time. And I went to work for UCSF Medical Center as a complaint resolution officer. So I started off that way, and I ended up being senior in just 2 years because they had such a huge turnover. But all I did there was investigations and workplace investigations, dealing specifically again with sexual harassment, some discrimination investigations. But all throughout, I was doing a lot of training, and that's just where I've landed because I am truly passionate about educating other people, and really, like you say about the whole not taking crap thing. I think it's more just that, I'm very much here's what I've seen in my career as an attorney. And so again, I'm back in the workplace. I'm training employees on what to do, what not to do. And I'm training leaders on how to be better leaders, right? So that we can have environments that, we spend way too much time at work to be miserable.
Right. How are we doing? And I don't want you to give me like any juicy details on any of your clients. Do you think that we're in a good place right now as far as like in the workplace when we're talking about sexual harassment? Do you feel like our leaders know? Like, do they know like really like how to navigate that? Do they know like what to do, what not to do? Like what does that look like?
I think it's a tough time, honestly. I have to say, like, there are lots of leaders that are good leaders that are learning things for the first time, that just because of what we're going through. So I don't think it's a matter of being a good leader or a bad leader right now. I think any leader, in order to be good, has to be of a growth mindset and want to do the work to sort of unlearn and relearn things because of a lot of different things, COVID, technology, working from home. There's just things that we haven't dealt with in this way. So everybody's having to learn, and it's tough. I think I said like a couple of weeks ago, I said, wow, being in HR, that's got to be a tough job right now. Right. Yeah. But then I talk to people in diversity and inclusion that are doing that work. And I'm like, that's got to be a tough job right now. Then I'm talking to lawyers and I'm like, it's hard for everybody right now, because it's just different times.
I love that. I love that you said learn and unlearn. I love that you say that because I remember, I got into workplace probably around 2001, and it's completely different than from right now than what it was when I first got in there. I mean, there was, hazing going on, and that, certain things like that were just allowed for some reason, and it still
Yeah.
happens now. But the fact that you said unlearn and learn and unlearn kind of resonated with me, because I always think, like, when I think about leaders and I think about leaderships, nobody is born a leader. You have to be trained to be a leader, right?
Yeah.
You have to, it's something that you have to be trained. You're not going to come out of the womb all of a sudden, okay, I'm ready to take charge.
No,
right?
I've actually redefined that altogether. I've come to the conclusion that the more that a person does work on themselves, that's what's going to make them a better leader.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, that's one thing that I noticed too, like in the workplace, where you'll have somebody and you can just tell that they're struggling internally, right? And if you could tell that they're struggling internally, and you could tell by the way maybe they treat people, you could tell by their processes or lack of processes, but it all goes with inside. And that's why I love that word inspire, because in order to inspire, or in order to live right, you have to go from within. Cindy Kidd, one of my good friends, she said legal trainer ninja. That is awesome. Yeah. No,
Thank
I love
you.
that. So where one thing on this show, what I like to do is people like yourself that are very successful. You would agree that you're successful, right?
I love what I do. I love what I do. That's success. Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Yes. So people, I would think that people would tend to say, okay, life must be easy for you. You must have had it easy your whole life. And I know that strength, that you just wasn't born with it. Is there something, like, what is it that make you, so competent in your job, so competent and confident in yourself? Like, what is it? Where does that strength come from?
Well, I think, like, being a hard worker is one aspect of it. Like, I was always a hard worker in life. Like, I've always had to work hard for everything. Everything that I have today is because of my hard work. Nobody has handed me anything, right? So hard worker is one aspect of it. But I think I have to be totally, it came to me when my son was born, right? When he was born 8 years ago, that's when something deep inside of me woke up, right? Because now I'm a mother. And I decided right away that that was my priority. And I left working for law firms. I came home because I wanted to be at home with him. I made that a non-negotiable thing for me. And so after that, it's easy, because every decision I make, like I said, every decision I make, it has to pass that test. If it doesn't pass that test, I don't care how much money you throw at me. I don't care what happens. It's not going to happen. And so, but that makes it easier in life when you just simplify it. I think we complicate the hell out of things. It's just figure out what your own non-negotiable values are that you're just not willing to sacrifice on, and then just don't do it. And and when I say don't do it, doesn't mean that we're perfect and we're, trust me, because I went back to work for 2.5 years because I was like, I need the money. Life pulls at you and you're going to get pulled in these directions. But then when I realized, like, that's why I said 3 years ago was where now I know there's no going back beyond the 3 years, right? Because that's where I was finally, like, very comfortable in my abilities, because I took that leap of faith in myself by starting my own business, which I never had any plans to do ever. And so when I did that, that was me saying, all right, you know what? You work hard for everybody else, and now I want you to work hard for yourself and do what makes you happy. And so that's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing.
No, I love
What makes
that.
me and my son. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you said that about your son. I think that's one thing that you and I have in common. It took me a while to get to the non-negotiable part.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at right now. There's certain things where I'm just not going to. There's no negotiation when it comes to my family. But I went I went probably, I don't know, years and years with, having the excuse or making the excuse that, okay, I'm working so hard for my family. I'm working so hard for my family when, I would come home because I worked in the fire department for many years, and I would come home and my kids would be like excited. And I'm just like, damn, I didn't like go out of town. I just went to work, but I'm like, I'm working way, 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 way too much. How, and that's what I was going to ask you. And that's something that even right now with my career path, I'm making those non-negotiables, and I'm making strides, but like, what is it? Like, what is it? Like, do you, stop work at a certain time? Like, do you have any tips for like, for me and everybody else out there that might be saying, how the hell do I, excuse my language. But how do I do it? How do I be a success? How do I, maintain, the work-life balance? Like, is there such thing as work-life balance?
It's not easy, and I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question. I'm trying to figure this out every day because I'm a single mom, so I'm doing this all by myself, and so for me, it is literally day to day. Now, that being said, I am very much conscious of. I try to do, he's with his father half the time and he's with me half the time. So I it's all about attention management, right? And so I cram in as much as I can when he's not here. And then when he's here, I still got to work, and I try to do it around his homeschool. I'm homeschooling him, so I have to manage his homeschooling and my calendar and all of the above. That's why right before we got on here, Tony, you got to see my LinkedIn thing that I just posted right before we got on here. Look at it real quick. It will crack you up.
I will. I'm gonna check it out right now.
Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy when you're trying to manage all of it. But it's about being intentional. It's about doing the best that you can. And, and so I do when he's here. I try my best to say, okay, what is it that I absolutely, you have to prioritize, what is it that I absolutely have to get done? What can wait till he goes to sleep? What can wait till I wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow and do it, right? It's just all about managing our attention, and that's part of life. We can't escape that. Did you see what I posted?
Wait, I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to find it right now.
It'll crack you up.
No, I love your post. There was something else that I had saw, and okay, here it is. Huge accomplishment. Let go of my need to control. Set up my calendar. Baby steps. Yeah. You know what's funny about that? I've been meaning to set up my calendar, but I don't know. I get intimidated when I go.
That's why. That's exactly why I posted that, because it's taken me over a year to get here, and I'm still nervous. I haven't said that to anybody yet. I just set it up, but that's why I said baby steps. But down in the comments, I was like, this was huge for me to let go of my control like that. But you have to. And so I think, just going back to your question, when I talk about like your non-negotiables, that doesn't mean life stops happening. Life is still going to happen, right? And so it's not a yes or no situation. It's you do your best, right? And so one thing I loved about this last year, honestly, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to relive last year, and that's not what I'm saying. But the one lesson, or the one thing I was grateful for, that's the best way of saying it, that I was grateful for last year, was that I got time. I have never in my life had time like that. And with my son, because I was homeschooling him, and I am so grateful for that. I mean, it was so amazing to have that time with him.
That's funny you say that. I always feel almost guilty, right? Almost guilty when, we talk about like the time during the pandemic, because probably about a week before I was telling my wife, and I was just like, man, there's certain goals that I had, and with the family, goals that I had at work, and I'm just like, man, I just wish that life could just slow down. And I know she probably looked at me like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell are you talking about? Slow down. And then this happened, right, with the pandemic, and I was just like, oh man, this sucks. But then something clicked at me, and what clicked was this is the time that I can do everything that I've been saying that I'm going to do. I can finally do it.
Mhm.
There's no excuses, right? I don't have to get up and go to work. I mean, yeah, I worked as a safety executive, so things were freaking crazy around that time, but I had the time to do
Mhm.
what I needed to do. And that's one thing that I encourage, people all the time when they're, complaining about their career, they're complaining about money and everything else that goes with, what we've been going through in COVID. I say, what about you? Like, let's look at this. There has to be,
Mhm.
something positive in the situation. I mean, this is a horrible, horrible situation, but what can we do, to build
Mhm.
ourselves, to build our family during it?
Totally.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did so much. I did so many things last year that I mean, I've never had the time to do before. Like, and it was just about taking care of myself. Again, I've always put everybody else first. And last year I got to put myself in as part of that equation, and really just with that time, because I mean, I've had to hustle, right? I've had to work hard. And so to not have to travel and to be able to do my work from home, I
Mhm.
got like about 2-3 hours a day that were back, and that like I could do things like reading. I read so many books last year. Like I started reading again. I'm not saying I finished them all, but I have like a ton of books out there. I mean, and the thing was, I didn't really miss the outside world, Tony. I didn't, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I was kind of the same way. I was in the house, and I know it affected my kids greatly, right? And I would arguably say, yeah, it was the worst year of our life, and we had some ups and downs, all kind of stuff
Yeah.
happened. But that was just that small pocket that I can just say, okay, yeah, okay, I got this, we got this. What about, like, as far as kids? That's what I was going to ask you too. As far as kids, like, have you noticed like anything more like collectively, like as adults, that we should or could be doing a little bit better for our kids? Because I know, and the reason that I asked you that is because I've noticed that I've had to completely like change the way that I parent, right? Because
Hmm.
me and my wife, we're the teacher with the parents, and it's just we just had to tone a bunch of things down and turn a bunch of things up. Have you noticed that in your house?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I am homeschooling him. So now I'm actually teaching my son things, right? And I'm part of his educational system. And he doesn't have access to his support network at school. So I'm that for him too. And I have to make sure that he's okay with what's going on. Like for kids, that's a lot for them to deal with, right? Because at their age, they
Yeah.
want to be around other kids. Mine doesn't want to go back to school. He wants to stay homeschooling. And I think it's because he genuinely, just like I loved having the time with him, I think he really loved having the time with me and his dad, because his dad's working from home too. So he got to be around us. And but also I think, you're right about having to make the changes as a parent, because I've started looking at things like, okay, I mean, I've always had friends of all colors, of all religions, of all everything my whole life. Like if you look at my pictures going, I mean, that's just been who I am. Right. And so, but we live in a place that's got diversity I live in South San Francisco. So there's diversity here too. But as far as like his educational piece, whereas before I was just relying on the school and all of that, I'm now supplementing what he's learning through school. And I'm like making sure there's diversity of perspectives and thoughts and so forth. And I never did that before, right? Because I was relying on the schools to do that. Also with food, right? I literally didn't go out to eat at all from
Yeah,
like
me
last
neither.
March. I haven't gone out to a restaurant at all. I've only gotten take home food like less than 5 times.
Yeah.
Like 3 times it was pizza because my son's birthday, and then he wanted pizza a couple other times, and then a couple of times we got sushi. That's it. So I've been cooking at home, and like he loves it. He's like all about in the kitchen. He wants to help me cook, and so we're spending quality time together in ways that we've never done. I mean, we would do that every now and then, but now it's like a regular thing that we're doing together, and he wants to be a part of it. So it's also just a beautiful thing. I mean, I'm sure it's like that for dads too, but I'll just speak because I'm not a dad, I'm a mom, and I can speak from the mommy perspective. But like, I've always wanted to be at home with him, right? So for me, my heart just got fuller and fuller and fuller because that's where I wanted to be all along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny you say that, because I've had many moments where I'm getting ready to go to work, or I'm leaving work, and my girls or my son are just like, oh, I wish we could just hang out. And then you just have that guilt, right? That guilt as a parent. Now I'm like running from these kids, man. And I gotta go. And I'm not lying. I literally did my work in the tub one day, right? Just so that I can get away.
Yeah.
I love that aspect. The aspect of eating dinner with the kids every night. I mean, we went probably, I think it was like a year straight. Every day where we're sitting down, we're eating dinner, and bringing certain things up that we probably wouldn't normally bring up. So that positivity, that's one thing, and I think you answered that, is taking the good out of the bad, because a lot of people, they have lost their lives, and at some point we're gonna have to like get out of this zone. We're gonna have to transition out of the pandemic, and what about after that? What about after that? And that's why I love that you're being positive. You're spending time with your son, and you're also given to the world, right? You're also given to the world, and you might not think of it as this big global thing. And that's one thing that I love about you, is you are making the world a better place, like with your content. Some of the stuff that you post, I'm just like, whoa, that's what I'm talking about. Like one thing in particular, and I'm sure a lot of people, I'm sure it gets a lot of people's attention, where white people, we need to talk. What's that?
Oh yeah, that's actually, it's coming up April 15th. It's a panel that I'm hosting. This is our second one. So I joined, I've been doing a lot of anti-racist work, diversity inclusion work. I've been doing a lot of that stuff since I started my company 3 years ago. I've been doing more of it, but this last year especially. And so I joined this group, which is put together by this white guy, Jonathan Mohan, and it's a group for white people so that we can educate white people on different topics of how to be an ally, how to speak up, how to intervene, how to be a cheerleader, how to amplify voices, and just help to raise awareness and educate on very important topics. And so it's specifically for white people, right? So that's why we got creative with the title, that it's white people we need to talk. That's the audience that we're gearing the education efforts towards. And so I just finagled my way into the group, because obviously I'm not white. but
No, you're not. I
said, I want to be a part of this. I want to help educate. And so I just sort of threw myself in there, and I was like, I want to do this work. I want to help, and I want to help create more allies. And so I just invited myself to the group. And so one of the things I said I could do is I could set up panels. I could host these panels. And so me and my colleague, Evan Burkhardt, we put this is our second one. Last time we had Karen Flushman there, and she's phenomenal. She's doing a lot of anti-racist work. And then this time we have Mindy Galati coming. She's a former criminal prosecution attorney. And if you think I don't put up with crap, wait, you got to hear her. I mean, she is straight up. And so, but it's to help educate. It's not to beat anybody up. It's not to shame or judge. It's literally for educational purposes. And so, but we figured that would get people's attention. It worked.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What to do with that title? Have you gotten any like hate from the trolls?
I haven't. And you know what? Here's the way I haven't. The answer is no. The answer is no.
Secret.
What is the secret? but I think what I think it is that there's two different schools of thought. somebody's going to read that and they're going to get offended by it, or it's not going to sit well with them. They're not the ones that are going to come to these events. The people that are going to come to these events are going to know what the purpose for that is. And if when they read the description, they'll see what the talk's going to be about, right? So my thing is, I don't want the people, if those people don't want to participate and learn, that's okay. Here's what I'm doing. I'm not saying we ignore those people or we cancel those people. I'm just saying where I'm focusing my efforts is to help raise awareness, right? Because there are plenty of white people that want to learn. I'm surrounded by them, right? And I'm working with them. And so those are the people that I'm like, I believe that I can add value to by exposing them to these different perspectives. So that's all about. But yeah.
I love that you said that you're adding value to it. And I think when people hear anything that has anything to do with racism or equality, immediately the little hate antennas go up, and and everybody is mad. One of our mutual friends, Sharice, right? Sharice, which is really crazy. Our connection, right? And I'll get to that in a second. Something that I thought that was really cool. But she has a talk called what is it? How to become a racist. And we did the same thing that we're doing right now. We're on our YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel, and I got probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that just, very hateful. Some of the stuff I'm just like, oh my God, I didn't even want my wife to look at it. The stuff was so mean and hate spirited. And that's why I asked that question. Like, what is the magic secret? And it's not just because of that circumstance, but I don't know. I get trolled all the time. Maybe they know just not to mess with you.
Well, no, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, because I've seen on several of my other colleagues that are doing this work, and they've posted about it, Now I've gotten people say negative comments, like whatever, like disagree with things, but I've never had somebody come attack me for anything like that. And if that happened, I would deal with it for sure, because I'm not putting up with that nonsense. But and I've seen other people post like inappropriate things where I've said, I don't have a problem reposting it with your name and putting it out there, because if you're going to put it out there, then it's out there. And what we do with it, like you answer to my interpretation of your post. And I've done that before, because I think we need to, right? In some ways, and I'm not saying canceling. That's not what I'm talking about. It's part of the educational process, right? So, for example, there was this one white male, and it could be anybody. I'm just talking about the one example that's coming to my head. And he posted something like listing like 20 different privileges that he had, right? I'm privileged for a family. I'm privileged for a job. I'm privileged for this. But he forgot to mention his white privilege, right? 20 of them, and then didn't mention that. So I went in and very nicely, I wasn't trying to like do anything mean or anything like that, but I just wrote to him and I go, oh yeah, and I said, don't forget about your white privilege. Sometimes we miss the most obvious ones, right?
Yeah.
And but that was his perfect opportunity. This is my point in doing that. This is, if he genuinely did not intend, and that wasn't his intention, what would have any other white person done? They would have been like, oh, you're right, I totally forgot, or fix it, let me revise it. I've had plenty of people call me out on my posts like, did you really mean that? I'm like, oh no, that's not what I meant. Now you change it, right? We're humans. No, but this guy stood in his ground and started coming at me and like 20 other people who tried to educate him and to tell him to correct himself. It was like 130 posts. I actually took a snippet of that and I posted it on my LinkedIn page. And I said, I didn't put his name down, because I was like, I'm going to give you another chance here to correct yourself. And then next thing I know, his post was down. He apologized. I got an email from somebody. I guess somebody told his boss, and then it was the end of it. But if that doesn't happen, if we don't do that. And again, I gave him an opportunity to correct himself. And I did many times. 20 other people did. At some point, you're like, okay, dude, you're not getting it. And it was obvious. It was blatantly obvious what he was doing.
Like almost like saying, you feel like it was almost saying like, okay, these are the things that I work for, or my white privilege isn't the privilege, or do you think that's kind of where he was coming from?
I'm not in his head, but I'm telling you, like, this was right after when all the Black Lives Matter stuff was happening last year, right? And everybody's like, Black Lives Matter and all of this stuff. And he's there in the middle of it, the timing of the post, listing all of the privileges. I'm a member of the army, I'm this, I'm that. And then conveniently doesn't list that one. And again, I wasn't the only one that felt and interpreted that text that way, that message. And actually, the funny part is after that happened, I came away with like 3 friends out of that situation, because now we're all connected and we're like, we have the funniest story. We met because we were all trying to help this person understand that what he's posting is very hurtful and harmful. And it's actually very harmful to put that on right now in light of the world. There's people that are out there that are rioting. There's people that are getting hurt. And you're sitting here posting something like this. Like, it was almost like he was trying to incite something, and I'm not putting up with that.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that you're so vocal about that. Have you always been vocal about it?
And again, I've always, I'm not going to be a bystander, and that I've always been that way. If I see something going wrong, there's injustice going on, or I'm going to say something. I'm going to get involved. I'm not going to just stand by and let it happen. Now, in my career, there's been times where I've seen things and maybe I didn't speak up right away, or maybe I didn't, that's not to say that I've always followed that, but I do something. I will always do something when I see somebody being treated or somebody acting with malice. That person was acting with malice. That's what my opinion was. And that's why I gave him an opportunity to change my opinion, right? I didn't just jump down his throat. I said, hey, by the way, you missed one. Some of the obvious ones are often overlooked, right? And so he could have easily just laughed it off or said, oh yeah, whatever, and corrected himself. And he came at it. And then his buddies got involved, and his buddy, so it was like I said, 130 different messages. And I've got screenshots of it, because I was like, you just gave me training material in my trainings that I do for the next year with your behavior of what not to do.
Yeah. I can send you some more stuff too, if you need more, more live examples, but
I see it all the time, Tony. That's why I'm wondering. I see it all the time. It happens. And somebody just posted about it, about an Asian colleague of mine just posted on her page that somebody sent her a death threat.
Damn.
A death threat. Wow. Like, really? For what?
Yeah,
because you disagree with her opinion or her perspective or what she's it was, and this is in writing. I'm thinking, like, where did your brain go? You understand? Like, this is evidence. Like, seriously, it's evidence. Why would and this is happening all over. And this is why things are going to change, is because we've never had the internet in the way we do right now. And in the time that we're spending on the internet and what we're using it for, it's different. So somebody does something, somebody does something like that, and it's in writing, it's going to come up sooner or later.
Yeah.
Somehow it can end up on social media, right? And you're done.
Yeah, and it should. And I always wonder, like, when did we get so emboldened to like spew hate out, especially on, these professional sites like LinkedIn, and it's acceptable. And that these people's bosses are seeing it. And right, if they're making these like racial comments or, saying, all of these vulgar things like on social media, what are they doing at work? That's what I always think about. What are they doing at work? And I feel sorry for the people that work for them. And that's why I'm so glad that you're out in the world doing what you do to educate those people, because, and this is what I was going to ask you. I feel like people that are racist or people that have like these biases, I feel like they should get the opportunity to be trained and unlearn the things that they know. But if they aren't willing to do it, there's no place for them to work. That's just what I think. Like, what do you think about that?
You know what, Tony, I've been thinking about this. This is a really good question that you're asking me. And I want to write it. I want to make sure we write it down, because I don't think it's about whether they're willing to or not. I truly don't. I think it's a matter of how do we get them to be willing? right? Just because somebody is not like gung ho right now, I want to learn about my biases, doesn't mean that they can't be ever, right? So I think it's like what you're saying. It's like, how do we convey the information? Like okay, you said the word bias. That's the perfect example for this conversation. That word has become demonized this past year. Like people, you hear the word bias, automatically you're like, it's a bad thing. Oh my, if I'm biased, then I'm like racist or I'm sexist or something. And that's not what bias is, right? So there's so much misinformation. Social media hasn't helped. Our former administration didn't help. I mean, there's a lot of things that didn't help. But the bottom line is we need to now change those. We need to normalize these words, right? That's what my whole TEDx talk is about, that's coming out tomorrow. But it's like people, and so this is why I started doing my trainings in bias, right? And what I started doing in my training is I started replacing the word bias with the word belief. And all of a sudden,
that's really good.
Everybody was wanting to listen and learn, right? So because that word bias has such a negative connotation, people shut down. They're like, I don't want to deal with that. I'm not opening up that can of worms. I'm not going to admit, the bottom line, bias is, if you have a brain, you have bias, period. Bias is just another word for prep. So it's about relearning. So what I was saying before was, it's about wanting to unlearn what you've learned your whole life and then relearn what's going to work going forward, right? Because the way that we've done it isn't going to work going forward. And that's why I said before that it's really about good leaders right now are the people that are doing their own inner work. And you see that happening all over, right? If a leader is sitting there thinking everything's going to go back to normal, that person's not going to survive, period.
Yeah.
You're out. Nobody wants that. Right? Yeah. Nobody's going back anywhere. We're going that way. We're not going back that way. Right?
Yeah.
So, but if you start doing the work and you start to realize that all of these things that are ingrained up here are no good, right? They were put there. A lot of times, like when I started doing the bias work, it started to blow me away because I realized that a lot of my unconscious biases are actually the exact opposite of what I currently believe.
Yeah.
And that's true for a lot of the biases that we have, because your biases are based on what you went through in your life. It could be any time in your life. So you might have an unconscious bias based on some experience you had when you were like 4 years old. And now every time you see a marshmallow, you gag, right? But that situation is different now. So there's been so much science that's been done around neuroscience, and we've learned so much about how we operate and we work. And so there are ways that you can learn about it. And you can put strategies into place so that you can minimize it and improve your own life as well as everybody else's. So it's a no-brainer. Like literally, like I like that no-brainer.
We're talking about the brain. Yeah, you just got to be willing. I think they just got to be willing to do the work. When you were talking, I was thinking about when I moved to North Carolina and I had this neighbor. He would always kind of like give me the side eye, and I asked him one day, like, "Dude, what's your problem?" And he goes, "Well, I don't like you." And I'm like, "Damn, bro, I love you." And he looked at me. He's just like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, "I love you. I think you're amazing." I was kind of trolling him, but because I knew kind of what was going on with him. But what he said was, he didn't like black people. And I was just like, okay, why, man? I'm just curious, because that was the first time that I had ever met anybody like that. And I knew that this guy was going to be. We were both in the Marine Corps, and I knew that this guy was in my unit. And so we started talking, but he had all of these different biases from, the things that he had never been around people that weren't white, right? He had all these different biases and this information that was told to him from his parents. And he and I we actually became like really good friends, like after a couple months. And I would be willing to say that in that time we would have died for each other. So I believe that people can change, right, and unlearn the things that they do. And I love the way that you put that, because it gave me hope, right? The way that you framed that. And
it is about hope. It's all about hope. And then this is the thing. It's like, as you know, I mean, there are simple ways to, so if you think about it in one way that I like to explain it, that makes the most sense, is your unconscious thinking and your conscious thinking. The only difference really, if you think about it, is a matter of speed. It's a matter of speed. So all of these unconscious associations that you're making are happening. But the thing is, if you could slow it down to think about, then and say, is once you start doing the work to understand what your cognitive biases are, there are over 150 different kinds. So we all have them. It's normal. It's just it's a part of who we are. So it's about figuring out who we are so we can address those situations. Biases could be good too. They could protect us, right? They're a survival mechanism too. So it's not a bad thing. It's not about getting rid of them. It's about understanding them and then putting into place strategies to make sure that what you're doing and what you're saying and how you're behaving lines up with that belief that you have. If it doesn't, then you choose something different. You act something different. You say something different. If it does, you're fine. But it's about making sure that what you're doing right now is in line with what's up here. And oftentimes it's not, right? Our brain processes close to 11 million pieces of information every single second.
Wow.
50 of that is consciously processed. So the rest of that is happening without us even knowing it.
Wow. I'm looking forward to checking out your TED Talk. I'm going to register for it, and I encourage everybody else to register for it. I'll make sure that I post a link to it. Are you excited? Is this going to be your first one, or have you given one?
Yes. It's my first one. Yeah. And I'm super excited. It's very personal to me, that talk. You know, I mean, even if just my friends watch it, it's fine because it's a part of my story. And I'm so glad to just put it out there. But it's really, I believe if people watch it and if they do the things that I'm asking them to do in that video, I believe that their lives will be better. Wow. And so I'm very confident in saying that. And lawyers, we don't make guarantees. So, but for me to say that about this is because I am truly just sharing my story and sharing my what I've learned in my life and what I know will help others. Right. So
I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to checking it out, and I'm actually going to I'm gonna watch it with my girls as well. What's next for you? What's next for you after the TED Talk?
You know, I'm
because that's a pretty big feat. That's
huge. And that's taken up like literally this whole year. I feel like I've been just obsessing over this TED Talk, and I've never done anything like that before, Tony. I mean, I've spoken at HR conferences and I've done a bunch of public speaking, like conference type stuff, but never anything like that where you're actually telling a story in that way before. So huge deal. The next thing I'm really excited about actually is I've joined a venture studio called Nobody Studios, something totally outside of anything I've ever done before. But the CEO is just Mark McNally. He's amazing. And we've connected on LinkedIn, and he sees me as being a part of his studio. And so I'm going to kind of be working with them on their culture, and kind of as they grow, I want to be there and be part of their journey to make sure that we do create a culture where everyone feels valued and respected. And so I'm excited because we actually just talked about it this morning. That's why it's like right on my head.
Yeah.
I'm going to go in there and I'm going to try to do what I can to help them set up their foundation. So as they grow, that we continue to, bring in the right people. And so, I'm excited about like sort of just trying something new and different and exciting.
That's really cool. I just had a thought. Have you ever heard of the inclusion crowd?
I don't think so.
I will. See, that's why I like this podcast. It's just a conversation, totally like off script. But I want to connect you. I want to connect you with them. They're a group that here soon I'm going to be doing different training, like doing classes with, and I think that you would be phenomenal to work with that group, especially with your experience and your background. I'm gonna write that down so that I don't forget. I just got a couple more questions because I know you're busy, and I know we only said 30 minutes. We've been going for 49
No problem.
minutes. This
No
is
problem.
awesome. I really appreciate you for doing this. Like,
Of
definitely.
course. Are you kidding?
I feel bad because I'm still in a bunch of information. This is good stuff. That's why I
It's
brought you
okay. No
on.
problem. No problem. I'm
um,
having a great time.
so what you're doing is opposite from cancel culture. What do you think about cancel culture?
Look, I think that again, it's all about the words, right? I think that word cancel just rubs everybody the wrong way, and it's been misinterpreted. I was never this much. I mean, as a lawyer, I've like sliced words apart my whole career, right? But I've never done the whole I don't like that word, this negative vibe with the word, right? And trying to change the perspective on that. So I don't like that word cancel. Okay, so I think that regardless of what happens, that we all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, right?
Yeah.
So I start with that premise. And so if somebody is blatantly being racist, right? I think that everybody should do something about that. Like nobody should let that slide, period.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I think there's a way to do something about it. You could still be respectful and handle it in a civil, what I like to call civil way, right?
Yeah.
And really focus in on that person's behavior. So it's not about judging them or shaming them or making them feel bad. It's about, look, I'm trying to educate you on what's going on here. And it's not about your intention, right? It's not about whether you think you're a racist or not. It's about what you're saying is making me feel that way, right? And so there's an educational piece that has to happen there. And what you do is you just focus in on that behavior, right? And you just say, by you let's say somebody interrupting somebody, by you interrupting this person, you're being disrespectful, right? That's it. Now, if the person accidentally did it or they weren't aware of it, most people are going to stop. We're not trying to make people feel uncomfortable or make them feel bad,
Right.
So, but if it continues, right, now the person is aware of how it's making you feel, and then they're continuing to do that, then you have to deal with that behavior. Again, don't let it go. It's how you deal with it, right? Now you got to look at the situation and look at the circumstances and look at the whole situation and decide what is the best way to handle this person.
Yeah.
Some people might say, I'm going to block this if it's online. I'm going to block this person. Some people might write a comment and give that person an opportunity to correct. Some people might say, you know what, I'm going to report this person to LinkedIn and let LinkedIn handle it. Some people might say, F you, what are you doing? Stop doing that, right? There's different ways of handling it. I don't think the way is to just say, let's cancel everybody that does something wrong, because we're not going to move forward if we do that. There's a lot of people that are going to get canceled.
Right. You see, it's almost like,
yeah,
it's almost like being in jail, right? We have people that do things in society that we deem are wrong. We lock them up, and they, jail don't change them. Like what changes them, right? It's definitely not locking them up and canceling them.
Yeah.
It's educating them. I was going to ask you my final question for you. And it's my favorite question. What's your legacy? Like when it's all said and done, and 10, 20, 30, 1,000 years from now, what do you want people to know about you, and what are you leaving behind?
Yeah, I mean, I want to leave a legacy of that I did my part, in what I could do to make this world a better place, right? And I'm doing that, and I'm trying to do that as often as I can. I want my son, when I'm gone and he's reading all these things and he's seeing all these things, I want him to say, that's my mom right there. That's the mother that raised me. And I do it because I really truly think that most of us, when you take away our money and you take away our cars and you take away all of that, I mean, we want to relate to each other. We want to relate to each other. And I think that people just, it's easy for me to relate to people because I've always felt like an outsider my whole life. Right. But I think a lot of people haven't walked those lines. They haven't been outside of these shells. So it's really just the growth of people. And as people grow, some are going to stay stuck in their ways and some are not. And so what can we all do to help people grow, right? And so that's what I'm trying to do, is just whatever I'm doing the work on myself as I'm learning, I'm sharing those lessons with everybody else. And that's what I'm encouraging everybody to do. I'm like, go be selfish, work on yourself, Go work out, Go, you know what? Take the day off. Work on yourself. I keep telling everybody very simply, don't do it for anybody else. Just do it for you. Eat healthier, work out, read books. Work. As you do that, you will automatically start doing better, more for the community. It's part of the process, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate you. Really appreciate you for doing this. And I want to encourage everybody else to go and follow and connect with my good friend Sejal. That's your LinkedIn down there. How else can we find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best way, and or my website. So if you want to put that link in there for people, it's just Train Extra, the name of my company, and it's spelled TRAINXTRA. So there's no E in the extra.
All right. I'm in.
Yeah, but
I'm.
connect with me on LinkedIn though. That is awesome because, as you know, Tony, I share resources. I'm huge on sharing good resources on issues of culture and civility and diversity and inclusion. I like look for that stuff and then I share it with my network because there's so much garbage out there that I'm like, no, I'm going to put out like valuable information to actually help people. So,
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that the information that you put out versus, your information is, hey, we have a problem and here's the solution. What I see a lot on social media is we don't have a problem or just here's the problem, right? But
mm,
no solutions. I like that you give solutions, and that's why, I do want to encourage everybody to follow up with you, contact you. So are you working mainly for businesses or okay?
yeah, I work with clients. Actually, now I'm doing it all over, since I'm doing everything from home. Actually, last night I trained people in India. So I'm global. I'm training globally,
That's
all over the world. And from it with my pajama pants on. It's the coolest thing ever.
I love that. I love that. I was on. I had a moment where. I mean, I'm like one of those friends that you're getting ready to go, and I'm just like pulling you back in the door, trying to tell you a story. Like, wait, don't leave yet. But I had a moment. I had a client that was I think, in Pakistan last week, and we were kind of going back and forth. And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like hanging out, like working with somebody in Pakistan right now. Like, how
Mhm.
else? Like, how the hell else would something like this happen? Like, it is such an amazing, thing that we can make during this time, right?
Yes, I'm with you. I love it. It's beautiful. And when I was training these people in India, it was like you almost feel like you're there, right? Because you're like it's a totally all of them were Indian, so the culture is totally different and their accents and what they were. I could just see their faces, and I'm like, whoa, this is really different than what I'm used to, right? And so it's good because it challenged me so that I communicate in a way that also resonates with them, right? So I like being challenged in those ways too, because you always want to keep getting better and work on what you're doing. So
Yeah.
it's awesome to be able to work with different cultures now and people all over the place. But yeah, I work with companies of all sizes, private sector, public sector. I've even done training for the state agencies as well. So I love working with different people.
Good
It's
deal. I love that. John Maxwell has a quote that says, "Everyone communicates, but few connect." So it sounds like that you're connecting over there because you're picking up all the differences and you're adjusting. What's one of the things that you notice that's different as far as just communicating and doing business?
for right now, just
Yeah,
generally.
internationally. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I think that, I think companies were already doing a lot of business internationally, not as much as we are right now, because now everybody's working from home. But I think what's happening is that people are realizing that, wait a second, we can't just expect our people to work with people from different countries and not expose them to information about them. So there's got to be that training and preparation. And people are understanding that if we want to succeed, globalization's here to stay. Like it's not going anywhere, right? So you got to make it a core part of your culture to make sure that everybody's culturally competent, right? And has cultural empathy for everybody. Like it's just not going to work anymore. Those days are gone,
Yeah.
like we're in a different time. And it's good. And it's good because I think people are realizing too, it's not just our employees that need to be happy, but our customers too. And how can you serve your customers if you don't know your customers? So you have to learn who your customers are and understand what matters to them, so you can create products for your audience and for the people that are going to be paying for it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it pays to love people.
Yes, yes.
I'm a teddy bear. That's what I get from that. It pays to love people, right? Any last parting words as we hit the hour mark? It doesn't seem like it's been an hour, but
No,
yeah,
I would just say focus on you. Work on improving you. That's all I'm going to say. It's just do the work to improve you and your family. Do what's best for you and your family. If you do that, then if everybody does what's best for themselves and their family, we are going to get through this a lot quicker. Otherwise, Tony, we're not going to see it in our lifetime. But if we can all just start doing the work for ourselves, and that's so easy, that should be something we'd want to do anyway, right?
yeah. Unlearn and learn. I love it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I value our friendship, and thanks for educating me. Thanks for educating the viewers, and thank you for being you.
You are amazing. You know what? I've met some amazing people this past year. You are on the top of that list, my friend. So
Stop
thank
it.
you.
Don't make me cry, because I would do it. We're live. I don't want to cry.
No crying allowed.
No crying. Well, thank you. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. This was my first one. I'm really excited to share the stage with my first guest. This was amazing. Like I said before, I'm just looking for inspirational people that I am truly inspired by. So if you want to be a guest on my show, podcast, whatever it is, I haven't really defined it. I kind of put it all over the place. Just reach out to me at info@TonyTaylorInspires.com. And until then, take care.